Okay, great. We're going to go ahead and start. I did want to let you know that in this webinar, the presenters are asking that you go ahead and if you have any questions, you can type those into the chat box in the bottom left corner of your screen just as you have those questions, and we'll pause and address them as they come up. So I'm going to go ahead and turn over the program.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin O'Brien. I'm the Capital Asset Senior Accountant. I'm here with Jackie Hopes, who's the Capital Asset Capital Projects and Debt Manager, and Bill Matthews, who's the Asset Manager Consultant. Today we're going to talk about the new physical inventory system. We're going to go through the criteria for an asset, how to use the new physical inventory system, and some additional information and important dates. So first, the criteria for an asset. An asset's defined as furniture, fixtures, and equipment that has a value of $5,000 or greater and has a useful life of over 2 years. It can also be software with a purchase price at or above $100,000. That also qualifies as a capital asset, but of course that's a lot rarer. An overview of our process. The inventory users in the new physical inventory system will locate, review, verify, and update assets, and then they'll forward it on to the inventory approvers who will approve or reject the asset. And then they'll forward that on to me, Jackie, and some other people that are serving as inventory administrators, which will review and post or reject them back to the inventory users. In prior years, the inventory was taken from a printed copy, which was signed and returned back to us. And last year, as you guys probably know, we used an Excel spreadsheet. So this year, we're using PeopleSoft for the inventory system, and that'll make, one of the advantages of that, will make your inventory available year-round. So you'll be able to see new assets as they're set up, and if there was an asset that you needed to dispose of, you can double check and make sure it comes off your inventory register. So in order to review, verify, and update asset physical inventory information, inventory users need to navigate to the asset inventory review and update page in PeopleSoft. And you just go to asset management from the main menu to asset management, then to physical inventory, and then to the USC inventory review and update. And this page will show all the assets that a user is responsible for. And let me go to that now. Let's see, up here, the main menu. And y'all probably won't have as much as we have right here. And asset management, physical inventory, and let's see, USC inventory review and update. And as you can see, each asset has 2 lines. The top row for each asset displays current information, while the second row allows you users to change some of that current information. This is where inventory users indicate whether an asset has been located, which is verified, or indicate why the asset has not been located, such as lost, stolen, or sold. You can also download the displayed rows into an Excel spreadsheet using this tab right here to export to Excel. So let's go through real quick everything that an inventory user can do in the inventory review and update page. First, you use the inventory code field to mark an asset as verified, lost, located, or lost or stolen. Use the second row of each asset to update physical and financial inventory for an asset, and then you use the inventory status field to indicate that an asset is ready to be approved or to be put on hold. You can utilize the Apply to All buttons in the page header to efficiently update the inventory status and inventory code for multiple assets. You can also use the filters in the page header to limit the number of assets displayed. And there's also a button to reset all assets that are displayed on the page. So the first step is using the inventory code field to mark an asset as verified or lost or stolen. It's important to note that most of your assets will be, the first option, this is all in a drop-down menu that I'll show you in a second, but the first option is to tag an asset as verified, which means the asset was physically located, it's in good shape, and there's no damage to it. If an asset is sold, that means USC no longer possesses the asset because it was sold. Stolen means USC no longer possesses the asset because it was stolen, obviously. And you can also scrap an asset, which means the asset was broken, wasn't worth repairing, so we just kind of tossed it. Cannibalize means that perhaps your department used parts from it to repair another asset. There's also casualty, which means USC no longer possesses the asset because it was destroyed as a casualty loss. It could also be destroyed or donated or just lost, which means that we no longer have the possession of it and we don't know what happened to it. For items that were stolen or lost, there's a comment field that should be used to note the USC PD report number, and any equipment that is no longer present and accounted for needs to have a deletion request form or a transfer request form filled out and emailed to me. And we'll go through where to find those forms later on in the presentation. Here we'll go to, you can see the inventory code field. It says verified in it. There's stolen, sold, scrapped, and all that good stuff. So you can use the second row of each asset. This slide encompasses a lot of what users will be doing in the inventory system, so please feel free to ask questions as you have them, and we'll answer any when we're finished with this slide. So the second row of each asset you use to update the physical and financial information. You can update the location, description, profile ID, the serial number. There's also new this year is a custodian name and custodian employee ID, which might be useful if you're like the Department of Chemistry has a lot of assets, about 200 at least, I think. So they might want to link each asset to a certain professor. And so for the custodian name, you type it in as last name, comma, first name with no spaces, just to be able to sort by that field. And in the future, it'll make it easier to identify. There's also category, operating unit, fund code, class field, department, and then there's a comments field that we mentioned earlier. Let's go to that right now. In these fields, you can see some of the description right there. The location is, there's a building number. The first three numbers are a building number, and then the last 3 or 4 are the room number in a building. So we can, let's see, you can use this little magnifying eyeglass or icon to search for another building number. You can see the building number and all the room numbers associated with it. Best way to look up that I've found is through the advanced lookup. And I like to look up by description, which is easier to guess than trying to guess a 3-digit number. And I also changed the description. Instead of begins with, I changed it to contains, so I could find something that doesn't necessarily start with that. So I was able to find 1600 Hampton Street, but because it didn't start with Hampton, I had to search contains. There's also equal to, not equal to, and then some other fields that you probably won't use as much in the description field. So this will be the most frequently updated, and it's important to keep that updated so you can.
We've got a question.
Okay.
Do you want to go ahead and field that, Kevin?
Sure.
Heather would like to know, what if an item is so old it effectively is valueless, but still technically operational? Do we have to keep tracking that item every year?
Yes, you do. If you're still using the item, it should remain on your inventory. If you're not, if it's so old and it's stuck in a closet or something like that, and you're not using it, you just need to get in touch with Inventory control, you can get in touch with me or inventory control, and we can get someone to pick that up and take it off your inventory. And you can use something else to store that space, to use in that space.
You may have another question.
Okay. I can keep on going through with this tab, or with this slide. So location field is going to be primarily what you'll want to update, especially the room number. If something is a vehicle or something like that, it's parked outside of a building, just use the building number and don't put anything in the room number where it's parked outside. Let's see. And make sure when you, what's another question?
We have another question. In the past, there have been issues where new buildings are not on the building list. Is this going to be updated on a regular basis?
Okay. And you can put it in the comments if it's not on the list. And we have to go through, I think, facilities in order to get the location fields updated. So we can do that. And I'll also try and get a updated Excel spreadsheet for all the locations that might make it easier to find in Excel rather than going through this magnifying glass. So that was a good question. Okay. I think we have another question coming in, but I also wanted to note real quick that once you make a change, and we can go through the other tabs real quick. There's the other physical, which also has a description and the serial number. You can double check that. And here's that custodian employee ID and custodian name that I was referring to. There's also the chart fields. And any change here, you'll need to send in a transfer request, especially department, since that'll determine whose inventory it shows up on. And the comment section right there. And any changes you make, I'll go back to the first one. Any changes you make, you want to make sure that you save them. So I'll go through and change this. And the Hampton Street Annex just got a new evaporator rotary HEI vat. So I'm sure the police department will appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and save that. And if you are with the police department, this is just in the test, so you won't actually see that, and you won't have to worry about what that actually is, because I don't even know. So you can see that right up here, it has the original location, and down here it has where we just saved it to, the 029A.
Okay, we've got two more questions.
Okay.
Can we request a sort by department number and save in PeopleSoft as we go through the inventory count process?
Yeah, we're going to cover that I think later on. We'll be able to use these filters up here right here to filter by inventory status, inventory code, the department number, the operating unit, asset ID, and tag number. So we'll cover that in a later slide.
Great. Also, we have an asset, cubicles, that our department no longer needs. Can we send it to surplus, or would it have to be returned through inventory control?
You can turn that in. I'm not sure how a cubicle would qualify as an asset, since it's a bunch of different pieces, but if it's an old one, we can definitely deal with that. If you wouldn't mind sending me an email, I can start the process for that. All right. And moving on, you can use the inventory status field to indicate that an asset is ready to be approved or put on hold. Just important to note first that inventory users can only select hold or pending statuses for this. There are some other statuses that will appear in the drop-down menu for this, but you'll only be able to change it to hold or pending. There's new, which means that the asset hasn't been involved in the inventory process yet. That's when you first log in, everything will be marked new. That doesn't mean that an asset is new this year or anything like that. That just means you haven't touched it for this physical inventory session. Hold means that the inventory user you can just mark something as this just to let the approver know who might be peeking at your work that you're working on it, or you need to verify some details before you send it to pending approval. And the next one, of course, is pending approval. And this will send the asset to an inventory approver to be approved or rejected. From there, and the inventory approver will mark it as approved, which means that everything looks okay and it'll be sent on to me, or rejected, which if there's an issue with it that was spotted, you'll get the inventory user will get an email notifying you that it was sent back to you. And from there, they'll be sent to me, and if it all looks good, I'll either reject it, in which case you'll see another email, or I'll set it to be posted. It'll be in process overnight, and then it'll show up as posted. So that one will be complete on your inventory. So at the end of the inventory process, all your assets should show up as posted. And as I said before, inventory users can only select hold or pending for inventory status. Let me go back and show you guys that. Where's my cursor? Okay.
That's weird.
Looks like I lost my cursor, so.
Yeah, go that way. Yeah.
Let me go back. Go back to where we were. Okay, there it is. We found it. So all is well. Let me go ahead and show you how to. So you see the inventory status for this asset shows as new. You can either change this to hold or pending approval. And that'll place the asset on hold so you can verify some details. You can also change that to pending. But if you try and jump ahead in the process and hit posted and try and
We're logged in as administrator.
okay, I'm sorry, we're logged in as administrator, so that would work for us but not you, unfortunately. I know you guys were hopeful. Let me show you what. And y'all, I've never had PeopleSoft clock this long. It probably knows I'm doing a presentation, and I apologize. Just in case we're unable to, if you tried to, hopefully you won't see it because you paid attention during this presentation, but if you try to change the inventory status to something other than hold or pending approval, you'll get an error message saying that you don't have that permission. Let's go to the next slide. So you can also utilize the apply to all buttons in the page header to efficiently update the inventory status and inventory code for multiple assets at once. This will set the inventory status or inventory code to the selected value on all rows where that field is editable. It will not, for example, update the inventory status on any row where the inventory status is to be posted, because inventory users can't change rows with that inventory status. You can also update rows where inventory status is new, hold, pending approval, pending approval, and rejected. So anything that you can normally access, you'd be able to change through this function. So you can place them all on hold. It's still clocking a little bit. So I can just do apply to all, and you'll see that all the inventory statuses change to hold. You can also do the same thing for the inventory code. Probably want to change them all to verified, if you do indeed find them all. And this is useful if you have a shorter inventory of just a couple items, or you're working off an Excel spreadsheet and you were able to find them all. That's just an easy way of updating all the inventory codes. And you can also utilize the filters in the page header to limit the number of assets displayed. There's filters for inventory status, inventory code, inventory department, operating unit, asset ID, and tag number.
Looks like we have a couple more questions.
Okay.
Someone wants to know, will we get a copy of the PowerPoint, or will it be available online?
It definitely will be available online, and I'm flattered that you'd want to watch this webinar again. So that's great. But yes, we'll have some slides later on in the presentation showing you where to go, and it should be available later on this week. So yeah, and we'll also have some standard operating procedures for users and approvers out there as well. So we'll show you where all to find those later on.
A couple more questions that haven't come through yet. But
Okay.
we started late. Can you explain the inventory status a bit more? When and who should enter this?
Sure. Let's see. Go back. Oops. Okay. Yeah, inventory status. As an inventory user, you can only select hold and pending for inventory statuses. All the assets will show up with the inventory status of new. And regardless of whether you're a user, administrator, or approver, you'll see all these options on the drop-down menu, but you'll only be able to select certain ones that apply to your role. So inventory users will only be able to select hold and pending, and they'll be able to change them from new. So once you located an asset, you can put it to pending, and it'll show up. Then you'll save it. It's important to save, and that'll proceed on to your inventory approver, who will approve or reject it. If someone rejects it along the way, whether it be a approver or an administrator, you'll get an email notifying you that it's been rejected. So that's also a nice feature of this. And then from there, it'll just go all the way through. It'll show up as to be posted once I've approved it, and then it'll show up as posted. And you want, at the end of the inventory process, you'll want all your assets to show up as posted. All right?
Okay, one other question.
Okay.
Consolidated is about 6 months behind on tagging
Will we be required to verify untagged items?
They will show up on your inventory, and that's a good opportunity to update all those fields that I was talking about. You can update the location, since once that'll save me a step from, I'd appreciate it if you guys update the serial number and the location, because that'll save me from having to type it in when they do get around to your facility to tag them. So you can update that. You can update the serial number, and you can also update the custodian name and the name of the custodian or person responsible for that asset. And that'll just make it easier to find in future inventories. Okay, and you can put, you can say something along the lines of that the asset hasn't been tagged yet in the comments field when you get to that point. All right. Let's see, I'll go back to, I think we were on number 5, talking about utilizing the filters. All right. And so you can filter, the tag number filters are useful if you've found an asset with a tag number and you want to jump directly to that asset. Let's see. So you can filter all the, let's see, let's change this one to new. Just changing a couple to new so we can show you guys a filter. All right. So if you just want to see the assets that are out there that you haven't touched yet, you can hit new and then apply filter. And it just shows the 2 assets that we just saved. You can see any that were on hold. And you see there's like 366 assets out there, 368. You can also do that with the inventory code. I believe they're all probably verified. Let's clear that out. And see, it just jumped to 368, so that also includes those other 2 assets. If you have multiple department IDs associated with your department, I know there's multiple users probably who are ones responsible for each individual department. You can sort by that, and you can also look up the department number using kind of the same thing that we did for the location. You can do advanced lookup, look up the department, and I don't think there's too many manager names in there, so you probably don't want to use that field too much. And you can also look it up by operator ID. Asset ID probably won't be very useful for you all, just because the asset ID only exists in the system. But once again, tag number, if you found an asset that that's tagged, that you're not sure it's on there, and you have 368 assets, you can just jump directly to that by typing in the tag number. And the tag number is on a little serial or a little sticker on the asset. Usually it's somewhere that's not readily accessible, usually behind in the back of it or something like that, I think. So you can type that in and jump right to that asset.
Kevin, Roger would like to know if you can filter on location to find things only in one room.
We might add that feature in the future, but right now you can't really filter by that. But you can export it to Excel and then sort by that location. All right. And you can also reset all assets that are displayed on the page. Users can click the Reset All Data button to reset all the displayed assets back to an inventory status of new. So you want to be careful using that. This will reset all the assets, including to be posted, but it will only reset assets that are included in any filters that are set. So it warns you straight up here. We might change that to bolded and flashing just because it's such a big deal. You can go ahead and proceed. And you see all the inventory statuses were changed back to new. So use that with caution, especially if you have all 368 assets showing right there. That might undo a whole bunch of work. And just remember to save frequently as well. Once again, once you make a change, you just need to scroll down to the bottom to save it. All the way down there and hit save. All right. And some additional information. I'm your point of contact throughout this entire process. Feel free to email me at any time with any questions or anything. obrien4@mailbox.sc.edu. And also there's some revised property accountability policies out there. Those were just updated to address changes in process due to the implementation of One Carolina. So in case you like reading that kind of thing, they're out there for you too. All right, some important dates. The inventory process will start on Monday, March 19th. That's this coming Monday. So hope you all recover well from St. Patrick's Day. You'll be granted access in the new physical inventory system on that date, and the process will end on Friday, May 4th. Departments can also request extensions by emailing me. You can also find resources on the web. There's some forms out there for the transfer and retirement. Just go to this web address and go down to inventory, sort under I, and go down to inventory. And then once you click on that, it'll take you to the deletion request form and transfer request. And that's for assets that the transfer request, of course, is for assets that you've transferred to another department, and deletion request is if you've turned it over to inventory control. If you need to update anything, such as the location, you can also use that transfer request form.
We've got another question.
Okay.
Where are Forms 7 and 8 attached if required?
Oh, we just did that. You can go Form 7 and 8, since there's no Forms 1 through 6. Everybody I've asked doesn't know how Form 7 and 8 got their name, so that's some fun trivia I'd like to find out sooner or later. So now we just changed the name. I think Form 7 was the transfer request form, and Form 8 was the deletion request form. So you can just navigate. They're out there on the General Accounting Internet website.
They may mean how to attach it.
Oh, how to attach it? I'm sorry. You can just forward it to me in email with the transfer request. You'll fill out the form first and then forward it on to the department that is accepting the transfer of the equipment, and then they'll fill out their part and sign it and scan it in and send it back to me. And just some contact information in case you need contact the General Accounting. They have a General Accounting email address. Accounts Payable and Travel has an Accounting Payable email address. Supplier Maintenance also has one. That's in case you have W-9s or W-8s. And Physical Inventory has one as well, and that would be obrien4@mailbox.sc.edu. And all this webinar, for your viewing pleasure, will be located in the PeopleSoft training and related resources. The PowerPoint will be out there, the recorded webinar will be out there, and there'll also be some job aids out there, such as standard operating procedures for the user role and the approver role. And the job aids won't be out there until Thursday, March 13th or so. Are there any remaining questions? All right, if there's no more questions, that concludes the webinar. Once again, feel free to contact me at any time for anything related, and I'll get with you as soon as I can.